Britain, home to a unique group of politicians who get so crazy that psychologists call their language gaslighting. This particular politician is known as Kemi, a beta politician with a particular skill for gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation that hinges on creating self-doubt. Dr. Sweet, an assistant professor of sociology at the University of Michigan, who studies this form of lying, describes the disease as
it's making someone seem or feel unstable, irrational, and not credible, making them feel like what they're seeing or experiencing isn't real, that they're making it up, that no one else will believe them.
What you're about to witness is what a layman would call crazy.
Some people might suggest that what I've just done there is a bit mean. But frankly, after listening to her talk about the CPTPP, I can only suggest you listen and see if I'm correct.
There is no sign of that American trade deal that is promised. The trade deal with India seems to be stalled. That Brexit promise of a sort of buccaneering Britain massively benefiting from trading around the world, that just has not come to pass, has it?
That's absolutely not true. First of all, remember back in 2018, 2019, people saying that we wouldn't even be able to get the existing agreements that we had in the EU. We got them.
Straight in there with a couple of lies. Just have a listen to all these businesses that are complaining about the paperwork they're having to deal with and their inability to trade with the EU.
The LSE's calculated that the number of relationships between the UK and the EU fell by about a third in the first 6 months after the Trade and Cooperation Agreement came into force. The Resolution Foundation has calculated that the long-run hit to wages will be £470 per person.
Brexit has increased bureaucracy. Many small businesses have really struggled to get to grips with that.
I'm Kieran Towerday. Hampstead Tea is an organic tea company. We import tea from all over the world and sell it all over the world. We were told that we would have the most amazing deal. We were going to get our sovereignty and we were going to keep all the advantages of being the EU. As a business, we were dumb enough to believe that. Come January last year, we got an order from Italy. We shipped it as normal, thinking there'll be a little bit of paperwork and we'll figure it out. And it sat for 12 weeks in different customs houses. So the reality was very different.
I'm Rob.
I'm Vicky.
And we co-founded Little Star Jewellery in 2017 as a husband and wife team. The plan was always to establish the brand in the UK first, and then Ireland, onwards to France, onwards to Germany.
The whole question of Brexit didn't really come into my thought much, because at no point did I think it would be as complicated for businesses to grow and to develop.
Remember when we were part of the single market, you could throw a box of tea or a packet of bangers into the back of a van in Birmingham and just drive it to Barcelona or Bonn or Brussels without let or hindrance. Now you can't do that.
You might reasonably suggest that, actually, I've just got a load of biasness there. Well, have a listen to this Brexiteer talk about how crap the deal is, and also how he would not vote for Brexit.
It's the documentation, but unfortunately, our customers have also got a raft of documentation to produce to allow the import to go ahead. So why buy from the UK? Might as well buy from another producer in France who can deliver to the door, no documentation, no problems.
You voted for Brexit. How are you feeling about that now?
I think, be careful what you wish for. Yes, I thought we were going to get a global market. This is going to be a new opportunity, but it hasn't turned out like this. I would have never voted for Brexit if I knew we were going to lose our job.
To get the existing agreements that we had in the EU, we got them. People laughed at us when we said we were going to join CPTPP, the Westminster bubble, laughing and not believing that this could happen.
Westminster bubble. Kemi is the Westminster bubble. Again, gaslighting.
We've done it. Yes, you are right that we haven't had a free trade agreement with the US, but that's because there's been a change of administration in the US.
Ah, yes, that old chestnut. There's been a change in the administration. Well, let's deep dive into that.
We hear that we're first in line to do a great free trade deal with the United States.
How would you rate our chances of a trade deal with the US?
The US is not carrying out any free trade agreements with any country, so I would say very low.
So what was Boris referring to? Well, he was referring to this agreement that he had with Donald Trump, but we're going to have to go even further back in history.
We're going to do a fantastic deal once we clear up some of the obstacles in our path.
We've got some fantastic many deals, talking about many different deals, but we're having a good time. As far as UK and the United States, we're working on a very big trade deal, and I think it's going to work out very well.
So this president tells us we're going to have a great trade deal. What does the previous president say?
Maybe some point down the line there might be a UK-US trade agreement, but it's not going to happen anytime soon because our focus is in negotiating with a big bloc, the European Union, to get a trade agreement done. And UK is going to be in the back of the queue.
And what did Boris say about this?
He told everyone in 2016 a US free trade deal was there for the taking, quickly in the back pocket, it would happen.
That wasn't me, that was the President of the United States at the time who said that. We hear that we're first in line to do a great free trade deal with the United States.
Starting to notice a little pattern here. Well, interestingly, the reason I've got that picture up in front of you is because it's the Congressional Building. Congress, you might know it as. And it's full of representatives across the United States. And in order for a trade deal to go through, they've got to ratify it. And with 36 million Irish Americans and the Good Friday Agreement almost being destroyed because of Brexit, they're not particularly happy to give us any trade deal.
No, the President of the United States at the time said you'd be at the back of the queue. And it turns out it's right. They've got better fish to fry, as you put it.
Well, it was the previous President of the United States who said that we would do a trade deal rapidly. I said nothing on that because I've had long experiences of dealing with
President Obama said you'd be at the back of the queue at the time.
He did say that.
You quibbled with that, and here we are at the back of the queue.
Well, if you want to, Gary, what President Obama did was he came and he made comments in the middle of a referendum campaign, which I disagreed with. I didn't think it was any business of the United States to intervene in our referendum campaign.
Turns out they're true.
But no, I didn't dispute that. What I disputed was his job to intervene in our referendum campaign. But what I'll tell you is that I've always thought that a trade deal with the US would be difficult because I know what the US is like as what they're like as negotiators. And
the political group, the Tory party, were once led by the Silverback, as tall as a man but twice the weight. He was an alpha, but the Tories ousted him, as he was considered a bad gaslighter by his peers. He now has to survive in exile, cleaning chairs and talking to rich people.
And they're not signing free trade agreements with anyone. They were going to join the TPP, and they're not doing that. We can't force other countries to do things that are different from what they want to do. They're a sovereign country just as we are.
But that was a promise that was made to British voters.
And actually just...
Have any of these promises made your life any better? Let me know in the comments.
Laura, that was an agreement that was had with the previous president. You cannot force countries to join free trade agreements.
So it was a promise then that you were never going to be able to keep.
Laura, please stop. Laura, please stop interrupting me.
Kemi, please stop lying.
You said that trade talks with India had stalled. That is not true. The Indian trade minister gave an interview with the FT just last week saying how well things were going. He was in the UK last week. These things take time because if we get them wrong, you would be accusing me of signing deals that were not worth the paper they were written on.
You mean like the Japan deal?
In pounds and pence, I have asked her, what is the forecast increase in UK exports and growth resulting from the UK-Japan deal compared with the EU-Japan deal that it replaces? Under that assessment, the forecast increase in UK exports to Japan was not £2.6 billion, but £4.3 billion. And the forecast increase in UK GDP was not £1.5 billion, but £2.6 billion. Now, I don't know about you, Madam Deputy Speaker, but that doesn't sound to me like further and faster or above and beyond or additional or higher to me. It sounds like smaller, slower, lower, lamer.
Well, what about the Australia deal? Let's try not to be biased here. Let's get a Tory MP to describe what he thinks of the deal he organised.
The first step is to recognise that the Australia trade deal is not actually a very good deal for the UK. It wasn't for lack of trying on my part. Indeed, as my old friend pointed out, there were things that we achieved. A special agricultural safeguard for years 10 to 15, staged liberalisation across the first decade, the protection of British sovereignty in SPS issues. It's no surprise that many of these areas were areas negotiated either exclusively or predominantly by DEFRA on behalf of the UK team. But it has to be said that overall, the truth of the matter is that the UK gave away far too much for far too little in return.
And the Australians laughed in our face.
What does Britain actually have to offer us? I mean, there's the beautiful MGs. If we could imagine the top-down Matty riding. Here we are. This is you riding to the Callide Power Station earlier this morning with the top down. Your hair blowing freely in the wind. Oh, hang on. The MG's owned by a Chinese company.
Yeah, that's right. That's
so
true.
What else do they have? There's black pudding, Cumberland sausages. That's about it, isn't it?
Carlos, there's a Spice Girls CDs, a nice cup of English breakfast tea. Don't be so hard on the Brits.
All right, name one good export from the UK, Matty.
It's hard, isn't it? I suppose. The peas pies. I don't know. Yeah, it's very hard. But this is about what we sell to them, Carl. It's a good thing for us. Good thing for us because we get to sell more beef, and that's great for everybody in Australia.
All right.
And New Zealand?
British farmers have reacted with shock to the terms of a new free trade deal with New Zealand.
The deal will see Kiwi meat imported without tariffs, and farmers in the UK say they get nothing in return. As Europe correspondent Lisette Raymer reports, they fear it will change their businesses dramatically.
A world away from rejoicing Kiwi farmers, their welly-wearing counterparts feel as though they are the sacrificial lambs of the free trade deal.
We're not competing on a level playing field.
The UK's less intensive approach to farming means their offerings could quickly be outpriced and outstocked by New Zealand's once tariffs are removed.
For a lot of people, it is all about price. So when you are at the shelf and you've got one leg at this price, one leg at another price, people have got to make those decisions.
But people can also see, Minister, that trade as a percentage of GDP has fallen at double the rate of the other G7 countries. Now, the CPTPP may be an important new deal, but you have not been able to keep some of the promises that were made to the public. That American deal, that Indian deal, those promises have not been kept.
Well, we're still in the middle of the India Free Trade Agreement. What the British public wants is a deal that's going to be of benefit to the UK. We're not just going to sign any free trade agreement just to say, here's a piece of paper.
And it wasn't just Laura Kunsberg. Sophie Ridge also had a dig using football.
But if there's only one country in this bloc that we don't already have a free trade deal with, how much impact is it really going to have? You're saying that it's going to bring in £1.8 billion in 10 years' time. I mean, the Man City squad value is about £5 billion, just to put that in context. Is it really going to make that much difference?
Yes, it is. It's good.
No, it's not. And that's why I made the comparison earlier with toilet paper. But what got me the most was this nasty little comment she made about the press. It sounded very Donald Trump-esque.
Countries are queuing up, and quite frankly, what's going to make a difference is how much we use this free trade agreement. And that's what I think I really want to impress upon you. If we keep telling everybody that this is not something that's worthwhile, it'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, that's right, a clear gaslighting attempt there. It's not the actual contract, it's how we look at the contract that's important. It's not the age or circuitry that's important in the television. It's what we believe we're watching on the television. It's not the manager, the owner, the players, the finances, the stadium, the training ground. That's the problem. It's whether or not you believe in the team.
We have to stop doing this, talking down our country. No other country does this.
Might as well be saying that fans shouldn't yell at the managers when the performance isn't good enough.
This is a fantastic deal.
It's not, and if you'd like to find out more, check out my video. Link in the description and in the comments.
This is a great regional trading bloc that we're joining. It has countries like Japan, Canada, Mexico in it, as well as New Zealand and Australia, which I'll be going to tomorrow. So this is something that we really need to celebrate.
Well, indeed, because what else do they have other than culture wars? Once again, thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters. If you made it this far, make sure you hit that like button. If this is the second video of mine that you're watching, you should definitely hit that subscribe button. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.